the free press, that doesn't exist, right? Not in America. The free press ain't free. Evidenced by, again, the outrage here that probably is going to result in Ronna McDaniel being fired, because what they're going to do is that they're going to make it so hostile. They're going to make it so awkward for her that MSNBC or NBC is going to have to get rid of her, right? They're probably going to have to pay her out because of the hostility at the network in regards to working with her.
The next day.
There's no doubt that the last several days have been difficult for the news group. After listening to the legitimate concerns of many of you, I have decided that Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor. He goes on to write that no organization, particularly a newsroom, can succeed unless it is cohesive and aligned. Over the last few days, it has become clear that disappointment undermines that goal. He explains, quote, our initial decision was made because of our deep commitment to presenting our audiences with a widely diverse set of viewpoints and experiences, particularly during these consequential times. And then, in closing, this message, which, again, is brand new, we're airing it for the first time here on MSNBC, having come out this hour, quote, we continue to be committed to the principle that we must have diverse viewpoints on our programs, and to that end, we will redouble our efforts to seek voices that represent different parts of the political spectrum, end quote.
Look, I don't think it was a great decision for Ronna McDaniel to join NBC in the first place. After she chose NBC to moderate that third RNC debate, which I was critical of, I think it was poor optics and maybe poor substance for her to join NBC. But having had made that decision, I think it is unconscionable that NBC, without even hearing what she has to say, cuts her off in that way. It's just another embodiment of this cancel culture that has spread across not only media, but every sphere of our life. And I think we need more open debate in our country, not more silos. And I think it was a pathetic decision by senior management that apparently has a spine made of jelly at NBC, and they deserve to be criticized for it.
All right, guys. So as I predicted, NBC News has fired former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel after massive backlash and outrage from the liberal propagandists on NBC and MSNBC over her being hired. Now, why were they upset that she was hired? Well, on paper, they claim that, well, we didn't like the fact that she's an election denier, okay? We don't like the fact that she's too close to Trump. This is not a Democrat-Republican thing. We just don't like liars and election deniers. This is what they claim. Except, of course, that standard doesn't apply to their own host and Democrats who constantly come on their network and lie about things like, for example, Russia collusion and also their elections being stolen when they lose.
The bottom line of this dossier, the bottom line allegation, the point of it is that the Trump campaign didn't just benefit from Russia interfering in our presidential campaign. The point of this is they colluded. They helped. They were in on it. This is kind of a real story. The connections between the Trump servers and the Alpha Bank servers were real. They were covert communications that someone was trying to hide, that the Trump organization and Alpha Bank appear to have been trying to hide.
The only other adversary of ours who's anywhere near as good as the Russians is China. So why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you.
A recurring theme in our guest, Stacey Abrams' new novel. I just first have to congratulate you on writing this just exquisitely crafted novel.
Stacey, it's great to have you back on the show and can't wait to talk about the novel. I just want to do a little bit of politics first.
Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger to undermine access to the elections for average Georgians continues to reverberate.
Abrams has a brand new thriller out tomorrow called Rogue Justice, which follows a Supreme Court law clerk as she unpacks a riveting legal mystery. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. I am excited and cannot wait to make that a summer read for myself.
We don't platform liars and election deniers, says MSNBC, the platform that routinely platforms liars and election deniers. Again, it's amazing how that works, okay? What's also amazing is the meltdown from the propagandists from their network over the fact that a lot of people were calling out this hypocrisy of MSNBC all of a sudden having an issue with hiring somebody so close to a political party, okay? Somebody being an insider of a political party, okay? And a lot of people said, look, MSNBC is full of Democrat Party propagandists, Biden administration insiders, like, for example, Jen Psaki, who was a mouthpiece for the Biden administration that is currently working for MSNBC, a major news network. I mean, Jen Psaki got so offended by this that she had to come out and to defend herself and tell us the difference. Right?
You may have seen some news over the last few days about the hiring of former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel as an NBC News contributor. And some, mainly in the right-wing ecosystem, have made the comparison to others who have come from government or politics into the media, including me. And that is a comparison I felt like I had to address. I got into public service for the same reason that many people do, to serve the American people. I worked on my first political campaign when I was just 24 years old. When I was 28, I packed my bags, I moved to Chicago to work for Barack Obama. He wanted to make the country a better place, and I wanted to help him. I wanted to work on behalf of the American people, to try to make their lives better. That's why I did campaigns. And a few years later, I would do the same thing for President Biden when I went to work for him in the White House. I was in the room for tough debates, for difficult decisions, for the messy and at times incredibly grueling process of governing. And that experience is something that I'm extremely proud to bring to this table and to this network. And there are many others who have followed a similar path, who I have a great deal of respect for. But here's the thing. That kind of experience only matters and only has value to viewers, all of you, if it is paired with honesty and with good faith. Those qualities are especially important right now at a time when our institutions are under attack and when our democracy is in danger. And our democracy is in danger because of the lies that people like Ronna McDaniel have pushed on this country. To quote Liz Cheney, Ronna facilitated Trump's corrupt fake elector plot and his effort to pressure Michigan officials not to certify the legitimate election outcome. She spread his lies and called January 6th legitimate political discourse. Look, this isn't about Republicans versus Democrats. This isn't about red versus blue. This is about truth versus lies.
Yeah. It's about truth versus lies, right? Says, again, the former White House press propagandist, Jen Psaki, who basically lied about the Hunter Biden laptop being Russian disinformation, and when pressed about it, when called out about it, refused to retract her statement, falsely claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop came from Russia.
Thanks, Jen. The Biden administration today put out a big report about addressing corruption. I want to ask you two quick and hopefully pretty easy questions about that. Shortly after President Biden's virtual meeting with the Chinese president, the first son's attorney said that he has finally divested from a Chinese investment fund controlled by state-owned entities. I was hoping you could commit to basic transparency about that transaction, including the name of the buyer, the dollar amount, and the timing. And the second question is, my colleague Miranda Devine has a new book out called The Laptop from Hell, and I was hoping that you could confirm that the laptop is indeed authentic and not Russian disinformation, as you seemed to suggest on Twitter last year.
Well, on the first, the president's son is not an employee of the federal government, so I'd point you to his representatives. And as it relates to the book, I have neither had the time nor interest in exploring or reading the book. Go ahead, Tina. Go ahead, Tina. I think I answered your question. Go ahead. You can go to the representative of the person who's not an employee of the federal government. Go ahead, Tina. I think we have to move on. Go ahead.
Is there anything the White House?
Yeah, amazing how that works. Okay, Jen Psaki lies on behalf of the Biden administration, and then when pressed on correcting her lie, she refuses to correct her lie, but yet she goes on air after getting hired by MSNBC to be a mouthpiece for the Biden administration. She claims that, oh, well, it's not okay for her network to hire people who lied on behalf of the former president of the United States. Again, it's amazing how that works. Absolutely amazing how that works. The hypocrisy is stunning here. But anyways, like I said, man, these people have been boohoo whining and crying about Miss Ronna McDaniel getting hired by NBC so much into the point where they forced NBC to fire her, okay? And there you have Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow, who tried to force herself to cry on national television over this hiring. They're now gloating about getting her fired. So let's watch this clip real quick, and then I'm gonna give you guys my overall takeaway from this.
Our chairman of the NBC Universal News Group, Cesar Conde, who we both know very well, he sent a memo that we all got as employees here, rescinding the hiring of Romney McDaniel. And I know I felt very strongly about it. I know you felt very strongly about it. I think everyone from 4 o'clock on, from Nicole all the way to midnight, we all felt very strongly and said so on our respective shows yesterday. And I just have to say, when somebody does the right thing, I feel like it should be acknowledged as publicly as we acknowledged our outrage. And so I know how I feel about it. I am grateful to Cesar for actually making the right decision. I think it was the right decision, but I want to get your take as well.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me about it. I still feel like I still feel like a little. It always feels wrong to talk about things, in the company
Agreed.
as if it's news. And it's just this. It's not the way either you or I are wired. I know, but I will just say that journalists are a fractious bunch. And in our big company with all sorts of different journalistic entities, you have all sorts of different people working in this business, doing all sorts of different kinds of work. And to see the essentially unanimous feeling among all the journalists in this building and all the sort of senior staff and all the producers and everybody in this building about this was one thing. But then to see the executives and the leadership hear that and respond to it and be willing to change course based on their respect for us and hearing what we argued, I have deep respect for that. I mean what I said on the air last night on my show, that I think that acknowledging that you might have gotten something wrong is a real sign of strength, a real show of strength. And I think it's a show of strength. And I think it's a show of respect for the people who work at this company and who make us who we are. That leadership was willing to change on this. And I'm grateful to them. It's not about hiring a Republican. It's not even about hiring somebody who has Trump ties. This was a really specific case because of Ms. McDaniel's and her involvement in the election interference stuff. And I'm grateful that our leadership was willing to do the bold, strong, resilient thing.
No, it actually was the weak thing, right? What they did was that they bent the knee to you crybabies over the fact that you didn't like Ronna McDaniel being hired because she's going to say things that you disagree with, even though she, you could argue from the left's perspective, not necessarily from the perspective of, the right or Trump supporters. She could represent a portion of this country that does not get representation on platforms like MSNBC. But that's the whole point, right? That is what they're actually really upset about. It's not about election denialism. They don't care about that. Democrats can openly deny elections. Hillary has, Stacey Abrams has, and they don't give a damn, right? They don't care. They platform these people and they celebrate these people, okay? They don't care about lies. They spew lies all the time on their network. It's not about that. What it is about is the fact that you cannot be a part of the mainstream liberal media. You cannot be on CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC. You cannot be a part of the mainstream liberal media if you possibly represent the view of Trump supporters. Okay, they do not want basically half of this country and our viewpoints represented in the media. That's what this is about. It ain't got nothing to do with all the stuff they're talking about, except the fact that, hey, people feeling like the 2020 election wasn't fair. That's a viewpoint we don't really want to platform. We don't want to have people on our network that are too overtly pro-Trump. Because again, pay attention to all the Republicans on that network and CNN as well too. All those networks outside of Fox News. On all those networks, those Republicans are not Trumpers. None of those people support Trump. They will not platform a overt Trump supporter, okay? They will only platform you as a Republican if you talk shit about Trump on their network. That's the only way, right? If you are a Liz Cheney, an Adam Kinzinger, a Michael Steele, an Alyssa Farah Griffin, right? If that's who you are, yeah, they'll platform you. But it tells you everything you need to know about these people and their motivations. This is why I don't respect these people, okay? Because ultimately, we know, based off what happened to Ronna McDaniel, that, hey, you're only on this network because they only allow you to have certain opinions. And it perfectly explains why people like Alyssa Farah Griffin are the way they are on The View, right? Where she's basically damn near a Democrat because she's not allowed to have any other point of view, okay? If she actually was out there giving the real conservative perspective from the perspective of a Trump supporter, yeah, she wouldn't be on the show. They fire her. They would not allow it. I mean, her co-host would revolt, right? They'd be like, oh no, this woman supports Trump. Again, they already give her backlash for working for the Trump administration and still being a Republican, right? A registered Republican. So again, as you can see here, as evidenced by what happened with Ronna McDaniel, if they feel like you're too close to Trump in regards to your opinions, they're not going to platform you. They're not going to allow you to get a job. They're not going to allow you to work at a network. They're going to cry so much that they're going to make it impossible. They're going to make it an impossible work environment for you, to the point where the network has to get rid of you. And I hope that Ronna McDaniel sues. And again, I'm not even a fan of Ronna McDaniel, but this is not about Ronna McDaniel, how I feel about her. It's more about the fact that this is another example of how, again, the free press is not free. It's not free. These platforms that claim to be neutral, they're not neutral, okay? They will not platform you if you have opinions that they don't like in regards to Trump. If you support Trump, they're not going to platform you. Period. And it explains everything that we see in the mainstream liberal media when it comes to these never Trumpers. These never Trumpers that are on these mainstream liberal media platforms, they're not coming at you with objective opinion. No, they're being paid to say everything that they're saying. They want to be a part of the club. In order to be a part of the club, in order to continue to get invited to the parties, to be accepted among the DC liberal establishment, you have to come out here and be overtly anti-Trump. If you're not anti-Trump, okay, if you're not trashing Trump every time you're on a network, they're not going to have you. They don't care for you. They don't want to hear actual conservative viewpoints. They don't talk to Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger or Alyssa Farrah Griffin unless they want those people to bash Trump. If they're not bashing Trump, they can care less about their opinions. When do they ever bring Liz Cheney on their network to have a conversation about the Biden administration or Democrats? Never. Never. The only time they bring her on is specifically to bash Trump, because that is her usefulness to them. Because outside of Liz Cheney's hatred for Trump, they don't agree with her. They wouldn't have her on the network. They could care less about her. Okay? But again, in order to be a part of the club, in order to not be exiled from the liberal elite establishment circle, if you're a Republican, this is the game that you got to play. You got to play the anti-Trump game. And Ronna McDaniel was not anti-Trump enough, right? Saying that, hey, I still got questions about the 2020 election. Nah, you can't do that. But you can still have questions about the 2016 election, though, right? You still can question that. Totally fine. Totally okay. So in conclusion, you guys can see that this is another mask-off moment from the liberal media, in which they're overtly showing people that, yeah, we don't platform all opinions from across the spectrum, right? We don't platform the opinions of 50% of this country. We don't want you to hear those opinions, okay? We are biased. We are overtly left-wing, okay? So anytime they come out here and they claim they're nonpartisan, whatever, it's not true. This situation right here is evidence, hard evidence that, yeah, these people are not nonpartisan. These people are biased towards the left, and they cannot continue to claim neutrality when you won't even platform the viewpoints of 50% of Americans. And those Americans don't even believe that Ronna McDaniel is a representation of them, which is the hilarious part about this, right? They think that Ronna McDaniel represents Trump supporters when Trump supporters don't feel that way. Trump supporters don't even like Ronna McDaniel like that. But again, it just shows you how deranged these individuals are, that even somebody like Ronna McDaniel, that they consider to be too close to Trump, even though, again, a lot of people don't consider her to be a Trumper per se. Well, that's too far, right? That's too much, right? We can't have that on our network, right? We're going to cry about it in revolt. Again, the entitlement from these crybabies is, again, it's amazing. It's amazing. But hey, it is what it is. This is what MSNBC signed up for. I mean, they tried to actually have a diversity of opinions on the platform, but unfortunately, their liberal propagandas didn't allow them to do that. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.